So let us start our session today. So as today is our first session, so you can consider this as a demo or you can consider this as a real session, whatever it is. Okay. So we are directly getting into it's a kind of, we're getting into the subject. Okay. So first of all, I welcome, good morning, and I want to welcome you to this Red Hat Ansible webinar, online training. So today will be our demo or first session, anything you can consider this. So coming to myself, like I'm A. Balachandra Kumar, I'm a certified trainer and having a 15 years plus experience in system administration, and I'm a consultant, freelancer, and I do different types of trainings, and I do college workshops and all these things. And coming to myself, this is all the technologies where I'm expert in. So Red Hat Ansible, Red Hat Linux, Oracle, Solaris, IBM-AIX. As you know that Solaris and AIX is not that into the market. So VMware and cloud. And I do take trainings on Veritas suite. It's an enterprise level application. So, and apart from this, I do a job support and certification, assistance and proxies also I'll do it. Okay. And I have trained many people, but through online around 6,000 plus people I have trained. Okay. So this is all about my technical skills and, experiences. And now very quickly, I'll get into the Ansible training here. So when I just talk about the Ansible here, as you know, like Ansible is it's an automation tool, right? So many times people have a doubt, what is the use of going for automation tool, right? So actually, first of all, you should also know, right? Ansible is also called automation tool, and Ansible also called DevOps tool, right? So why it is called DevOps? Okay, automation is a part of DevOps, we can say. Okay, because the Ansible is a tool which is used for development and it is also used for operations or operating, right? So what is mean by that? Development is nothing but like your company want to develop in a software. Ansible can be used at development level, and you can also use Ansible at the you know operations level. Operations is nothing but implementation, patching, right, installing, um, continuous workflows will be there. Only installing doesn't fulfill your requirement, right? You need to install, you need to configure, you need to secure, you need to back up, right? All these things comes under something called operation. So that's the reason, like in short form, like dev plus OPS stands is nothing but DevOps. This is what exactly the name came, right? This is all about the DevOps. Okay. And automation is a part of operations, we can say. I mean, not only operations, automation is also part of DevOps also, we can say. How it is going to work at DevOps level, we will be discussing that detail. This is the major importance about the DevOps. And now I'll try to give you some information. Like take an example, like nowadays, the automation is there. That's the reason the IT infrastructure. Okay, when I say IT infrastructure, everything comes into it. Everything is nothing but server comes into it, operating system comes into it, securities comes into it, storage comes into it, everything, anything, whatever you take it example about virtualization, containers, Kubernetes, or it might be any type of cloud. Everything comes into the IT infrastructure, right? So this entire IT infrastructure can be automated, right? But when I say that, if we don't have an automation, how it used to be, many people like you have a very good experience, right? Maybe like, when I started my career, I need one or two servers or 10 servers or 20 servers into a production. It used to take nearly 1 to 2 months to get the box and get installed and test, and they try to put it into a testing for 1 to 2 weeks or 3 weeks. They put everything and they test it. Then after 1.5 to 2 months, they try to get that machine into the production. Right? It is not that easy to, get a machine, or, provisioning a machine into a production environment is not that easy. I'm not talking only about a machine or a OS. You take an example of anything. We are talking something about routers and switches. As you buy a router or switch, it is not that easy to get into, you know, into production or into a, working environment. They do a lot of tests, a lot of parameters need to be tested, and then they are going to get it, right? So this was basically how it is going to work. Even you talk about an application. Take an example, you have a server which is running with some operating system. You want to deploy an application. We used to follow step-by-step documentations to implement that application or a tool or a database, whatever. Sometimes if you miss any step, you used to not get any output. We used to miss the output. We used to, face some errors. And, this is what exactly. Again, what we used to do, again, we used to cross-check the step by step, and then we used to rectify the problem. This is what exactly it used to happen, right? So the previous system administration or database administration or storage administration or entire infrastructure management is really not that easy. We used to do a manual test, so manual parameters, so many manual parameters we used to perform. You can talk an example about health check on day, right? When I joined 15 years back, a company as a L1 administrator, I used to do a lot of health checks on my servers, right? They used to provide me an Excel sheet where I used to run around 70 to 80 commands on every server, and I used to perform the health checks. You're getting that? So basically, this is what, so many manual administration, right? So such a kind of manual administration, such a kind of task are being automated and done in minutes nowadays. You're getting it? So using these automation tools, it is being automated and used within minutes. I'm telling you, not even an hour. Within minutes, they are performed. So this is the power of the automation tools, right? Anything you can do. You can deploy 100 machines, virtual machines, or you machines in a cloud within few minutes. With all the pre and post customization, everything you can make it ready. So this is the power of automation. There are many tools used in automation. There are many tools, because you should also know Ansible is existence in from 2012 only. Okay, before 2012 there was no Ansible. Okay, before 2012 there were many other tools are there which are used for automation. But at that time, only few companies were using this automation tool. Very big companies, very enterprise level companies, thousands of servers. They're running with hundreds of applications, right? So they used to do an automation there, right? But what happened later on, people understood the power of automation. Then they started using the automation, like somewhere around, I can say 2016, 2015, 2016, or you can say, if I want to tell you from 2018 onwards, very effectively the automation tools were implemented in the environments. Okay, because they really came to know what is the power of automation. They started using it. That's the reason, Many times we see that there is no positions for L1 and L2 because L1, L2 positions related tasks are being done most of the times by the automation tools only. You getting my point? So this is what exactly. So let us get into the things here. We will just discuss more about it. So as you know that like Ansible is an open source automation tool. We're calling it, I mean, it is an open source automation tool. Okay. So you know what is open source? Here is open source in a sense the code is open to everyone. And the second meaning of open source is I mean, the software is free to everyone, right? So you might ask me a question, what is the use of open source? What I'll do with the code? Of course, if you're good at the coding, you can develop some more modules to your in Ansible that might be used for your application or tool or to your environment. This is the power of automation. Okay, you can tune, you can change, you can test with your applications and tools. These flexibilities are being provided by the open source, right? So, or a platform used for IT tasks such as configuration management. So the IT tasks such as our configuration management, application deployments, intra-service orchestration and provisioning. These are all the areas where the Ansible can be used. Okay, this is some of the important things. If I want to tell you, Ansible can be used everywhere in your IT infrastructure, right? Many people have a doubt. Can I use it for Windows? Yes, 100%. Can I use it for Linux? Linux is a default platform because it is developed on Linux. Okay, it is especially designed for Linux only, but initially, uh, but we can manage everything. You can use it for cloud. Now you might have a doubt. Can I use it for only AWS or GCP? Not like that. There are 15 to 20 different types of cloud vendors we have. You might be using a cloud application cloud, or you might be using infrastructure cloud, whatever it has been supported there. It supports in all the core areas of IT infrastructure, right? So this is the important things about the Ansible. Now, before we go more into Ansible, okay, before we discuss, you want to know like the history of Ansible. So as you to know one thing here is in 2012, you know, Ansible was introduced. Who introduced this? There is a person with the name called Michael D. Hans. So Michael D. Hans is also a very good DevOps admin. He worked in different and types of automation tools or DevOps tools, we can say. Before 2012, he has a vast experience in these automation tools, right? Vast experiences around 10 to 12 years or 15 years of experience he was having. He worked on different tools, but the problem here is, you know, he used the tools for different things. He used a different tools. For example, you want to use a configuration management, he used a different tool. Server provision, he used a different tool, right? For orchestration, he used a different tool, right? So this is what exactly. So he was just thinking, why don't all these features will be not be in a one single tool, right? So he can't go to the companies and he can't ask them, right? So what he did is whatever the experience he was having, with all his experience, he want to develop and introduce a one single tool which is going to support everything: configuration management, automation, provisioning, orchestration, everything. It can be used at DevOps side, it can be used at operation side. It is a single tool that has to support your entire IT infrastructure. That was his main goal, right? And he want to cut off all the dependencies. What is this dependencies is very simple. Maybe you have seen many tools that is used in the industry that are something called client and server. It is agent based, right? What is agent based? For example, we talk about a backup tool, right? So backup tool you're going to install on a server. It is a backup server and I want to configure my client. What you will do? I will install a backup agent on all the clients, right? Then only it will become a client to my backup server, right? So this is what exactly. So without installing this agent, We will not consider us as a client, right? You might go with any any software. It might be a database server, it might be database application, it might be a backup. You might take anything, even it comes to the DevOps also, like we talk about Puppet or we talk about some other tools. There's all something called agent based only. Now I will also tell you what is the disadvantages with the agents. I will tell you. It involves lot of commercials. If you want to install an agent, you need a license. If you don't have a license, you can't install an agent. You can just go for testing, but you can't run it for 6 months or 8 months or 1 year. It doesn't work, right? So this is what exactly. So that means it is involved in lot of commercials, right? So this is important. But Ansible is developed in such a way there is no agent required, right? So you might have a question like how it is going to communicate. We will be discussing it very detailedly. Okay, so let us get into the slide here. So Ansible was released in 2012 by the Michael D. Hans, and a developer who have been working for configuration management and infrastructure automation. Configuration in one from the another from many years. Michael found many companies were using separate tools for automation and their workload, automating their workload. Like take an example, the configuration management, they use something called Puppet Chef, CF Engine. For server deployments, they use something called Capistrano and Fabric. And we used to use a lot of ad hoc commands. Quick test. Ad hoc is nothing but quickly. You will connect using SSH and you'll try to run a plain commands or script. This is what we have, right? Okay. In order to overcome this, what we are going to do is he wrapped up all these features into a one single tool that is called Ansible, right? He brought all these features into a one single tool, Ansible. As Ansible was introduced in 2012, okay, then afterwards, what happened is in 2015, Red Hat has acquired Ansible, right? So for what reason they have acquired is they want to enhance the feature of the Ansible and they have want to come up with an enterprise level tool that is called Ansible Tower. So there is a lot of difference between Ansible Engine and Ansible Tower, right? There is a lot of difference. Why? Because when I'm just talking about Ansible Engine, it's engine, it's purely a CLI tool that is called a command line tool. It's purely a CLI tool. It's a command line tool here, right? So it is used for entry levels environments. That is nothing but a small and mid-range environments it is used, like environment with 100, 200, 300, 500, like this. We are going to use engine only. Okay, but if your environment is very big, it's an enterprise level. We are using so many enterprise level applications and storages, right? And your environment is more than 2000, 3000, 4000 servers. So it is not that easy to manage the entire environment with CLI. So what Red Hat says is they have introduced another software that is called Ansible Tower. So it is purely a web-based UI. It is purely a web-based UI. Getting it? So you can connect your Tower setup using a web-based, and it gives you a very neat and clean and very informative dashboards, and you can navigate within the dashboard and you can perform all your tasks through the browser, right? And there are a lot of differences between Ansible Engine and Ansible Tower also. We will be discussing these differences, right? The first difference is command line and GUI. Apart from this, there are so many differences that we are going to see. That whatever the limitations that we have with the command line, and that has been fixed with the help of web-based UI, right? For example, I can give you one example here is by default, when you go for a command line, it doesn't record any logs. But when you go for Tower, yes, it records a log, so a detailed log about whatever the task you're going to do it, right? So like this, there are so many differences that we are going to have between the engine and between the tower. Okay, so we will be discussing detailedly about it. So this is all the information here, right? Now let us get into it. Like why Ansible? Because it's very simple. So you will ask me why it is very simple. Because many times what we see, before learning any automation tool, people always recommend you. Do you have a coding skill? Do you have a knowledge about scripting? Do you have a knowledge about Python, Perl, or some other coding? So like this is what exactly they ask us. But when it come to the Ansible, right? No one will ask you whether you have a prior coding knowledge or not, right? Even if you don't have a 1% of coding knowledge, also nothing to worry. You can 100% work with the Ansible. Why? Because I will tell you. Ansible is developed based on Python. Developed based on Python. Okay. Now you will ask me, should I learn Python? Very simple. Before we go with Ansible, let me ask you, Linux, Red Hat Linux, or Unix we take it, or Unix. Okay. So it is developed based on something called what? C or C++, right? The C language or some Unix or Linux level, programming they used and they develop it, right? So as a system administrator, if you are trying to learn Linux, are you learning C or other kernel level programming? Not required. That is a backend program. We don't need to learn about it, right? If you just learn the command, that is sufficient. In a same pattern, the Ansible also developed. What Michael says is as I developed the Ansible based on Python, but Python is a backend program. Okay, nothing to do with the Python, right? If like Linux has a commands, right? Linux has a command. In the same way, Ansible has something called modules, right? You should know if you want to perform anything on Ansible, you should know how to use a module, right? For example, inside the Linux, we have a command and a command has an option, right? Okay, we use an option user add hyphen u, user add hyphen small g, capital G, user add hyphen e for expiry, hyphen a, f for inactive days. Remember? Okay, m update hyphen y is nothing but yes, right? You know how to use these options. At the same time, the commands when it comes to Ansible, like we have a modules and modules as a arguments. Okay, we call it as arguments, or we call it as also options here. So only thing is what Michael says is very simple. There is no there is, I mean, no need to concentrate more on the Python. If you should only know how to use these modules, right? For example, I'll give you one example here. User is a module to create a user, to modify the user, to delete a user. Like a group is a module to create a group, modify the group, and delete a group. Yum is a module to install a package. File is a module to create a file or directory. Copy is a module to copy files and directories. So, okay, if line in file is a module to edit few lines, that is nothing but I want to replace one single line, I want to delete or insert single line, we will use this line in file. Like this, there are so many modules we have. There we have so many modules, right? So this is what exists. So you should know how to use the modules with an option. So this is the importance here. So human readable automation, no special coding skills needed. A task executed in order, okay, used by every team get product quickly or productivity quickly or production quickly. This is what exactly. And you might ask me about, you're just talking about the modules only, but how do we use these modules, right? See, basically we have a Linux commands, right? You want to run multiple commands. What you will do, you'll write a script, right? At the same time, when it comes to Ansible, we write something called a playbook. We write something called playbook. Like inside the Linux, we have a script, right? You write a script, bash scripts, Perl script, Python script. Like this, when it comes to Ansible, we write something called playbook. Now you will ask me what language we use to write a playbook, whether we are going to use Python, whether you are going to use Perl or what exactly. So remember, playbooks are written based on YAML. Okay, so YAML is another, data serialization or data distillation language. It is called. It is same like it is equal to Python or Perl, you can say. So it is very user friendly language. We are going to use this YAML in order to write a playbook. So now you might raise a question like, okay, should I learn YAML also? Nothing like that. You should just learn a few things about YAML. Okay, what is this few things is right? When you're writing a playbook, assume that the playbook extension should be always like this. It should end with .yml or it should end with something called YAML. This should be the extension of the playbook. You're getting my, this should be the extension of the playbook. Remember, right? So this is very important thing. Even if you don't maintain the extension, that is not a problem initially. But when we used to, like, for example, like 6 years, 7 years back when I started working with Ansible, at that time, if I don't mention .yml or YAML, it used to not recognize. But the current versions of Ansible, even if you don't put extension that call .yml or YAML, even still it will take it. That's not a problem. But it is mandatory to put it extension, just for understanding. Okay, there should be an extension. And remember one more thing. Assume that you are writing a playbook. For example, I'm writing a playbook for something called HTTP, right? So basically, we basically use VI or a Vim to write a playbook. But in real times, people are using some tools like Visual Code, PyCharm. There's so many Visual Code Studio is there, and we have a PyCharm. Like this, there are many tools we have. Around 10 to 15 types of tools we are having, which has been used. Okay, but we try to use only, we will use only here VI or Vim only we will use. So take an example as I go with VI and Vim. So always remember one thing here is the playbook should start with 3 dashes and end with 3 dots. That's a very, very important thing. The playbook should start with 3 dashes and it should end with 3 dots. This is a mandatory rule that you need to follow. And one more thing here is this ending is not mandatory, but starting is very, very mandatory, right? So this is the way how it's going to work. And inside this, what you will do. So basically, HTTP.yml is a playbook. Inside this, we are going to create a play. Play will have a task. Task will have something called modules, and module will have something called options or arguments. This is the way how you're going to write, right? And when you are going with the YAML, you should learn some more important things here. That is nothing but a space indentation or an order of defining play, task, module, and options. Okay, that I will try to show you in practically. So how we are going to define the order of play, task, and module and options, we will be discussing detailedly. Okay, so this is all about and powerful. When I talk about powerful, why it is powerful, as we discussed, you can use Ansible for application deployment, configuration management, workflow automation, and network automation, security, compliances, and orchestrating a lifecycle management. And next is it is agentless. So when I say agentless, so basically, you know, we are going to use basically SSH if you want to communicate from Linux to Linux and Linux to Unix, right? That's a very important thing. And if you are want to communicate from Linux to Windows, we try to use WinRM. We try to use something called WinRM. Okay, that is called Windows Remote Management Tool. It is called. Okay, so this is what exactly. So let me give you some information here regarding the other tools. So let me give you an information about Puppet only. So like Puppet is like it's like a agent based tool, we can say. So this is your Puppet server, and this is your Puppet client, right? And why you are calling it as a client? Because a Puppet agent is installed here. Puppet agent is running here. This agent only will consider this as a client to your server. And you know that Puppet is purely a pull mode software. It's a pull mode. Pull mode means very simple. You're going to sit on a client and you're going to pull all the configurations, whatever you want to do it. This is what exactly it is going to work. And like here, take an example. You have 100 machines license. 100 machines license here. Okay, 100 machines license. Now take an example. You have 100 machines license for the Puppet. You have deployed all the 100 machines. Well and fine. So after deploying 100 machines, like for testing purpose, not for 1 or 2 months, for 6 months, we want to add another 25 to 40 machines to your existing environment. So you need to buy a license for it because it's not 1 2 months. Because anything that you want to test, the trial things, they are going to give it for 30 days or 60 days or 90 days, but not for 6 months or 8 months or 9 months. So whenever it goes beyond the trial period, definitely you need to go for a license. So when you go to the vendor, if you say, we want to add another 40 machines, straight away it says that you need to buy a license for it. That will become an extra cost to your company. For buying this license, again, you need to take NOCs, you need to take approvals from your clients and customers. If they accept, then only you can do it. So there's a lot of commercials involved in it. But whereas when it comes to Ansible, okay, so this is my Ansible server. So basically the terminology will change here. So we never call Ansible server here because in Ansible, we call it as a control node. So where your Ansible is installed and running is called control node, and your client is called managed node, right? This is what exactly. And here the Ansible is installed, Ansible is running. Okay, and this is my client. So Ansible client. So basically, we use a very good, well-known service that is called SSH. And in SSH, there are two types of authentication. SSH password authentication. Okay, that is nothing but you need to put a password. Other one is SSH key-based authentication or password-less authentication. We will say password-less authentication. That is nothing but we using a public key. We try to communicate. Okay, public key. We will try to communicate. Okay, so we basically go with this only. We basically go with this kind of authentication, passwordless authentication here. So, and Ansible is purely a push mode software. So push mode, in a sense, we try to push everything from the control node to the managed node. So you might ask me a question, what you're going to push? Push is nothing but a playbooks. And playbooks has what? Play and modules, play task and modules. Okay, it is going to push the modules. It is going to push the modules from your control node to manage node. So as you know that it is a agentless, so we don't need any license. Take an example. If you bought 100 machines license, again you want to add another 40, 50 machines for 3 to 6 months or 8 months. So no need to have an approval. No, we don't need to take an approval by because we don't need any license here, right? So basically you can go for, you know, without any commercials, any, you know, uh, big discussions. You can simply just inform your client or management saying that you are going to add another 20, 30, 40 machines to your existing environment. They might question you like, is that anything involved in commercials? There is nothing like that because it's a agentless. It's a agent free because we are going to communicate with a well-known service called such SSH. So they also accept it and you can just put the machines into the environment and start using it. This is how exactly it's going to work. So this is the benefit of agentless. Because of this feature only, many people they switch from other agent-based tools to agentless. This is one of the biggest reason I can say, right? So this is what exactly. And then these are the areas like where the Ansible is more used. So these are all the technologies where the Ansible is used. Like you can take about cloud, containers, Windows, networking, DevOps. Okay, you can integrate with other DevOps tools also. Like you can see Git, Vagrant, Jenkins, so many tools we have. So monitoring tools, operating systems, storages, everything, right? It might be a database tool. It might be a web application tool. Anything you can automate using Ansible, right? So this is what exactly. Then we talk something about architecture here, or we can say terminology also, right? So basically, this picture gives you a lot of information here. So first of all, like when we talk about Ansible, okay, uh, we talked about control node and manage node, right? So many people have a doubt, like when you're talking about control node, assume that you're talking about control node. Now tell me what should be my control node. It should be a dedicated mission. Okay. What should be the configuration? Should my control node should be with 4 processors with 32 GB RAM, 64 GB RAM, right? Or it should be my production machine, or what exactly it should be? So very simple here. When I talking about a control node, it can be any machine on your environment. Any machine means like you have some core production machine. Can I install Ansible on that? Can I create a playbooks? Can I run a playbooks there from there? Why not? 100%, right? So there is nothing to do with what type of server it is. It might be your test server, it might be your laptop, it might be your desktop, it might be machine in the cloud, it might be a virtual machine, it might be a machine on your Dockers or containers or Kubernetes, anything it can be, right? Why? Because remember one thing, on control node, you're not going to do anything. On control node, you are just going to create a code and you're going to push it to the manage node, right? Code is just like a file. It's like a script. You're just pushing this particular script to the manage node. So entire thing happens on the manage node only. For installing application, installing patch, rebooting, everything is happen only on manage node. The control node is just to create a code. Use that code with the modules and push it to the manage node. This is what exactly. So remember that your manage node can be anything, any mission. Okay. I don't say like this configuration, that configuration, any mission it can be, you can use it. Okay. So this is very important. So control node can be Ansible can be installed anywhere in your production or testing environment. Okay. So this is very important thing. Then what is managed node? Managed node is my nothing but my target mission. It's my target mission, right? So why I'm calling it as a target mission, because I'm going to target that mission only to perform some task, right? I want to create a user, I want to install a patch, I want to update kernel, or I want to install application, I want to perform health check, anything that you want to do it, that will be on your target mission. So your target mission might be a one machine, or it might be a couple of servers in a rack, or it might be a cloud environment, or it might be a Dockers containers, it might be a VMware virtualization environment, it might be a VMware virtualization environment, right? It might be a cloud, or it might be, you know, it might be, network devices like routers, switches, firewalls, anything you can manage. So these are very important things here. These are very important things, right? Anything you can manage. It might be your network devices. This is what exactly. Is this clear? So this is all about. Okay. Now you have understood. And one more thing you need to understand before we go much into the Manage nodes, you should know. How do we recognize a managed node? That is very important, right? How do I recognize? For example, we have a couple of servers in a rack. You want to hit from your control node to this target machine. How you are going to hit? How you are going to recognize it? Very simple. So for understanding that, you should understand something about a concept called inventory. So what is inventory here? Inventory is a file where you define the target machine's information. So what is this target machine's information? Like target machine has an IP address, right? It has an host name. It has an FQDN. FQDN stands for fully qualified domain name. FQDN stands for fully qualified domain name. This is what exactly it is going to be, right? So inside the inventory, we have IP address, host name, and FQDN. This is what exactly we have. Okay. So very important thing, I can compare this inventory equal to this file. etc host file. So what is the use of etc host file? You know that you can communicate with any machine with IP address, but if you want to communicate with host name or a fully qualified domain name, we will try to update the target machine's information here in the same way like inventory is going to work. Okay. So remember, whatever the machine you want to target, you need to get their IP address or host name or fully qualified domain name. You need to update in inventory, because when you are trying to run a playbook, the playbook verifies with the inventory, then it targets that particular remote machine. This is very important. So I hope you got an information about inventory. And when we talk about inventory, we have a two types of inventories, I can say. One is a static inventory and another one is a dynamic inventory. Dynamic inventory. So when I talk about static inventory, very simple. Like how do we maintain a etc host file? In the same way, we are going to maintain a static inventory. Dynamic inventory is something different. We are going to use the dynamic inventories, especially for the cloud virtualization. I mean, VMware or virtualization or Docker. So this is the areas where we use. Okay, so this is very important thing. Then let me talk something about the playbook. So already we discussed about playbook. As you know that the playbook, I told you already, the extension of the playbook should be .yml or it should be YAML, right? And it should start with 3 dashes and end with 3 dots. That is a very important thing. And within this, like we are going to create a play. A playbook contains play. You might create a play, I mean, a single play, or it might be a multiple plays. And we have something called a play contains task, and task contains something called modules, and the module contains something called options or an arguments. This is what exactly we're going to see, right? So I'll just try to show you like how the playbook looks here. I have some playbooks which is already written here. So 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 CD projects. This is a directory where we have all the things. Like let me open Vim second.yaml. So this is my playbook. Can I see this? This is a playbook here. So this is something called play. This is something called from task. Here it is called task. But you remember here we have a two plays here. This is a play one and this is a play two. Yes, you can write multiple plays inside the playbook. And this is a task here. Inside the task, we are using a module called yum because we want to install HTTP package. And after installing a package, I want to start a service. I am using something called systemd. Systemd is a module to manage your services here. Okay, so you're going to use like this. So this is how. So this is the order of playbook. So we will discuss the how do we place this order. We have to use something called space indentation. You need to follow. I'll show you how do we adjust this all detailedly in the coming sessions, right? Not now. So this is a way how you write a playbook, right? So this is all the information. See, your extension is .yml. Okay, and as you go into it, started with 3 dashes. Ending, I did not give you any ending because it's not that mandatory. This is the way how do we write it. And you can see this is a host name I'm going to target. So whenever you are running this playbook, right, before it targets this host name, it looks the inventory. It looks the inventory, remember. This is very important thing. Now I'll just try to come out of it. This is how the playbook looks. Now, yeah, I hope you understood the playbooks here. So now you have understood like how the playbook is. You understood the inventory, and when I talk about the modules, as we discussed just now, modules are developed based on Python, and no need to learn Python. If you know Python, that is well and good. So you'll ask me why? Because just now you said that Python is not required. Then again, you are saying that if you know Python, it is good. What is the use? Are we going to make any changes in the module? No. Then what you're going to do? If you are good at Python, you can develop your own modules for your applications and tools. There's the benefit, right? So this is the things here. How come Ansible in very few days become, major tool in the industry? Because it's an open source. Many people who know Python, they started developing the modules, and people started using it, getting it. So if you know the Python, that is well and good. Take an example, your company have developed some new software and they want the software need to be automated using Ansible. Someone should be there, right? If we don't, if I'm not expert in Python, what company will do? They will hire a consultant and they give this project to them, they develop it. If in case if you are good at Python, it will be easy for you, right? So this is what exactly happens. So modules are developed based on Python here. This is, if you know Python, this is the benefit here. Okay. So this is all about how it is going to work. Okay. So very simple. Okay. So I'll just try to show you the modules also. Basically, how do we see the modules? But before I go with the module, let me show you like some commands here. Ansible hyphen version. We are using 2.9.9.27. This is an Ansible engine. So see here, this is a thing. And this is a location where your all modules are located. So can you see this is a location? I'll just try to put, right? So this is a modules. There is a directory with the name called modules here. So as you get into the modules, there are categories of modules we have. We have a categories of modules, like we have a cloud, for example. I'll go into the cloud here. As I get into the cloud, you see there are many types of cloud we have, right? Ali Cloud, Amazon. Let me take you into the Amazon because these are all the modules, and you see all the modules are written based on Python.py, right? So this is the exact location of the modules, right? So remembering this location is little tough. So what we can do is we have a command called, like we have a man command. You know that? What is the use of man? To read a man page, right? Okay, where the man pages are located, many people don't know, right? But what we will do, we will use man followed by user at, it will try to list the man page. At the same time, when it comes to Ansible also, we have a command called Ansible hyphen doc. Okay, if I put hyphen L, it is going to give you a list of all the documentation related to the modules. And you know how many modules we have here? Very simple. You just try to put WC. It will give you the 3,387 modules we have. And if you want to read a particular module documentation, for example, I want to read a documentation for user. So I'll just try to put an enter here. So it is giving first the part from where it is taking the module, and it is giving the description of the module here. Managing user accounts and user attributes from Windows Target. If you're going for Windows, this is a module name. If it is a Linux, you can use user. And this is all the options that we are going to use. This is all the options. Can you see this? So this is the way how you're going to use it. Take an example. I'll just try to show you for EC2 for cloud, creating and terminating an EC2 instance. So this is what exactly it's going to be. This is how exactly it's going to be, right? So this is the way how it is going to work. Okay, so I hope you understood about the modules here. Okay, so this is all the modules. And you might like next is APIs. API stands for application program interfaces we call. So very simple, these APIs are there this has been used to communicate with the API consoles, like cloud consoles, right? Some application consoles will be there. If you want to interact with that such kind of consoles, we need something called APIs. Okay, and we have a plugins. Plugins are enhancements of model, we can say. Okay, and especially when it comes to the real-time project, Ansible can be deployed in public and private cloud. Anywhere you can deploy, you can manage any environment. And what is the CMDB? You know, like CMDB stands for Configuration Management Database. So as you know that, yeah, you know, like many environments we have, they use something called CMDBs, Configuration Management Databases, right? Which are more used for uh, maintaining your assets and maintaining the information about the infrastructure, right? So this is all about. Okay, so like you can take an example about service now, manage now, this kind of tools, Red Hat Satellite, this kind of tools comes under CMDB only. Okay, so and you can manage your host and networks. This is what exactly. So I hope you understood little bit about the terminology, because today is our first session. Maybe I don't know whether you have got little bit about the terminology, because I'm just giving an overview. We will be discussing detailedly tomorrow, because we are just continuing the sessions from today. Okay, so this is just, if you don't understand also, nothing to worry. Again, we are going to discuss detailedly into the terminology, into the architecture. Okay, so this is all about. Then when I just talk about, there are some surveys done by the Red Hat. So the business values of Red Hat Ansible automation platform. So like, 9 organization average 667 returns on investment after implementing Red Hat Ansible automation platform. Okay, this is a recent analyzed, recent statistics, we can say, analytics statistics, which has been done by the Red Hat. So there's 9 organizations are very big and enterprise level organizations. So before they deploy Ansible, you know, their return on investment was normal, but as they put Ansible and as they started the automating their environment, they have seen 667 percentage return on investment. So, it's a great return, right? So this is what exactly, because of these reasons only, most of the IT environments, IT infrastructures are being, using this automation tools. So this is all the statistics we can say. Okay, so this is all the things. And this is just, I kept it because if some fresher joins, they will come to know what is the average salary for Ansible developer in India. Okay, basically this is a starting range. There are people earning 10 to 15 lakhs, 20 lakhs also when it comes to the Ansible. Getting it? Okay, so this is how exactly it's going to be. Okay, so I hope you understood. Then when I talk about Ansible Tower, basically Ansible Tower is also called AWX. It is called AWX, and it is a web-based solution that makes Ansible even more easy to use for IT teams of all kinds. This is what exactly. So Ansible Tower, okay, it's a web-based solution. Very, very important thing that you need to remember. And when I talk about Ansible Tower, Tower expands automation for to your enterprise. So what is the difference here? Controls, knowledge, delegation, simple, powerful, and agentless. Of course, simple, power, and agentless we already discussed, right? You should know something about control. What is control? See, when you go for an engine, you write a playbook, right? So basically, that playbook don't have any controls. Anyone can read it. If it depends on the standard permissions of your file, right? So anyone can read, right? So this is really not safe. This is really not secure. So we are going to go with something called control, right? Or with help, we are going to use something called, role-based access for, you know, taking the control on your playbooks, right? This is what exactly. And scheduling can be done. Centralized logs, jobs. Centralize is nothing but you can sit at one single console, you can centralize the jobs and visibility and compliances. This is all the features of Tower, right? So this is a benefit here. So I can just give a side by side differences also. Ansible engine doesn't provide you a log. Ansible Tower provides you a log. Ansible engine doesn't provide you a notification. Ansible Towers provides you a notification. Ansible engine doesn't give you a scheduling. If you want to go for scheduling in engine, you need to depend on cron and at. But whereas when you go for Ansible Tower, it has its own scheduler where you can schedule it. Okay, in Ansible engine, there is no control on playbooks and inventories to the users. But whereas when it comes to Tower, yes, we have a role-based access where you can have a clear control on your playbooks and inventories, right? This is what exactly. And we have a clear picture, transparency on what jobs are running, what are failed. All these things can be done. And one more thing here is when you compare with engine to Tower, there is a very good control structure in user administration. Like we have a terminologies like team and users group, like this we have. So where you can you know create a hierarchy of the users, like you use Windows AD, right? LDAP. How you create a hierarchy in the same way you can go with it, right? And there are other advantages we have. You can integrate any other third party tools with the Tower. And Tower can be integrated with the third party uh, network users, like LDAP, you know AD. This has been supported, but engine doesn't support all these things. That's the reason people go for Tower. In most of the environment, I have seen very, very big environment, they are using Tower only. What does Ansible? Already we discussed RBAC, push button, RESTful of APIs, workflows, enterprise integrations, and centralized log. This is what exactly the Tower is going to provide. Okay, so this is Ansible Tower is the developed environment. First thing is graphic user interface dashboard, role-based access control, graphic inventory management, and multi-playbook flow workflow, and job status updated, whether the job is successfully run or it failed, activity streaming, manage and track your inventory, jobs, schedule job, and external log integ okay, integration notification. This is what exactly. Okay, and basically as a part of demo, let me show you the configuration files too. So basically when I just talk about Ansible, as you install Ansible, right? So basically the information is stored here. So this is a default configuration file for Ansible. So entire Ansible behavior depends on this configuration. Okay, this is the default location of your, okay, and I'll just try to show you the inventory also. Basically, when I just talk about host, this is your default inventory. This is your default inventory. Can you see this? This is your default inventory. Okay. So you can see this. This is an inventory file. Okay. Then let me give you a doc we have seen. And when you talk about the documentation, this is a site where you can get the Ansible documentation. Basically, by default, it is a web-based documentation. Remember? So of course you can download the documentation also. That's a different thing. And this is all the informations, right? So this is all the differences between the tower and engine already we discussed. So this is all about the uh, today's session. So if you have any doubts, if you have any questions, yeah, please you can ask me related to anything. Maybe the flow we went on, or you want to, okay, let me also give you the content, show you the content. Give me 1 minute. I'll try to put a content in front of you. So this is a course content here. It's totally a 40 hours training. So this 40 hours training, we are going to cover the Ansible engine and Ansible Tower. So you will see around 30, 28 to 30 hours, we will have Ansible engine only, because without engine, you cannot work with Tower. So that's a very important thing. Many people don't understand this. They directly learn the Tower concepts, but they don't know how to write a playbook, or they stuck at some other things, right? So it's very important. You should understand the first engine concepts, then you should get into a Tower. If you learn engine, the Tower is very simple for you, right? So this around the 18 to 20 chapters we have. So where we will be discussing, like the first day, we will just go with the introduction, and we will go with the installation of Ansible. We'll go with installation of Ansible in Red Hat and Ubuntu. Okay, because CentOS and Red Hat Linux is equal. So we'll try to see Ubuntu. Okay, then we will see deploying the Ansible. It is nothing but like configuring inventories and configuration files, and running the ad hoc commands to deploy some quick tasks. Okay, to perform some quick tasks, and then we will go with implementing playbooks. We will try to see how the playbooks are going to work. Here only we will discuss about YAML. So we will see how to write a single playbook, how to write a multi playbook, and managing variables here. So managing variables is nothing but, see, in a third chapter we try to write a playbook, but remember one thing: playbooks are, it's a plain playbook, right? So we write a plain playbook, but in real time you should know how to modernize the playbook. So for modernizing the playbook, what we do, we have to implement variables, loops, facts, and Ansible secrets. So this all comes here. So we will be discussing variables, and we will be discussing managing secrets and facts, and implementing task controls, which we call as iterating the tasks, and deploying the files and managing host, and managing large projects using dynamic inventories. Here we see in this 9th chapter, we will be discussing about how the AWS cloud environment has been managed using a control node. Okay. Here we will see how to write a playbook for cloud also. As I connect to the cloud APIs, and I'll show you how to create a playbook to create EC2 instance, to create a storage buckets, or to create VPCs, to create IAMs or AMIs. All these things I'll try to give you. Okay. I'll give you a few examples there. Okay. And simple playbooks, I mean, roles is one of the important things here, because as you go into real time projects, you will be working with roles only, right? There are different types of roles. We will cover all the types of roles here. Then we talk about troubleshooting. So engine point of troubleshooting, we are going to deal here. Then we will go for introduction to Tower, and we try to see how to set up a Tower control node, I mean Tower setup. and then we will go with the dashboard licensing part and stopping and starting the services. Then we try to understand the tower feature, I mean controls, and then we will go with RBACs. RBACs is nothing but how do we manage our users and groups. Like we have a hierarchy called organization, team, user, group, all this thing, and we will see how the static inventory is configured inside the tower. We discuss something about GitHub, and then we go with dynamic inventories. So this is basically how it's going to work. Right. And of course, we will also cover little Windows also. I'll also show you how do we configure my Windows machine as a managed host. Okay. So this is basically how. And the entire Ansible engine training goes on purely Red Hat Linux because it's designed for Red Hat Enterprise Linux. We go with it. But in the same way, I'll try to touch little Windows cloud environment also. I'll show you an examples about AWS, but in a similar way, you can target the Azure or GCP, whatever it is, right? So this is the entire content here. So if you have any doubts, let me know. So we are going to continue this session from tomorrow. So, and if any other informations you need, let me know. So if you have any doubts, also let me know.
Balchandar, can you share the recording to mail ID?
Yes, sure, sure. I'll share the recording. That's not a problem. I'll share this recording. And yeah. So any other doubts? Unknown.
So, we're going to have this session daily. Like, what is
Yes,
it?
no, Monday to Friday. Monday to Friday
Friday?
we are going. Monday to Friday. Weekly 5 days we are going to do it.
Okay, and for how long? Like 1 hour, one and a
1
half.
hour 15 minutes. That's it. Actually, 1 hour 30 minutes we planned, but you know, if you have any doubts, any queries, 5-10 minutes here and there. But 1 hour 15 minutes we are going to do the session.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, that's okay. And as you all know, the course fee it's at 12,000. Actually, it is 15,000, but yeah, I'm just offering it for 12,500. Okay.
And how it has to be paid? Like, can you pay it in
In
installment?
two-part payments you can pay.
Mhm.
Two-part payments. It's not nothing to worry.
But is there any chance to start bit early?
A bit early again. I mean, it will be too early,
Like
right? I
six,
don't know,
six
like
thirty, something like that.
It will be too
6
early.
too early. That's the thing. 7 o'clock. I think it will be.
Okay, but okay. But I
Okay.
have to drop my kid at 8 o'clock. I have to drop.
Acha,
But
okay.
the schooling
So,
is
acha. We will see. We will try to find it at 8 o'clock.
okay.
So we
If
will
you end
see
up
that.
at 8 o'clock,
8
it's
yeah,
good. But
that's not a problem. Daily 1 hour we will do. We will see that. Okay.
yeah,
If 5-10 minutes is there, that's nothing to worry. Anyhow, you're going to get a recording. If you want, I'll just see that sometimes. Okay.
okay,
So
fine. Then.
fine that. Okay. So
Are you going to implement this Ansible? Like, can you show some examples on the AX boxes as well?
AIX boxes, but I don't have any AIX boxes right now. But I'll give you some
But
examples.
anyway,
That's
it's
not a
support, right? It will
yeah.
support, right? You will some of the
100%.
Ansible.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I will just try to show you the modules here, which supports
Mhm.
for AIX also. Let me show you.
Okay.
100% it will support.
Even my
That is,
existing environment we are using, but even right so far here and there, but how the communication are going to happen and the
yeah.
tower to here is.
So AIX also it will support. Maybe I need to go with the system inside the system. See AIX modules, AIX file system, AIX init tab, AIX L volumes logical. Can you see this?
Correct.
Yeah, we have this. This is there. There's
Okay.
nothing to worry. I'll I mean, we will be dealing more with Linux. So Linux and AIX almost it is little bit similar.
Yeah,
So
correct. But even right, some of the versions it will not support. There is some
hmm,
compatibility with that
yes.
Ansible versions with
So what
AX.
task you are going to do in AIX most of the time?
Most of the time, as I said, is a file system check and
Check. Okay.
and we need tab like is there any cron schedule or something like
Hmm,
that.
okay. Okay. But only few modules are there.
Exactly correct.
We need to see.
Mm.
But this add to cron modules are there, right? Even it works
Yeah,
for
Linux
AIX
like
also, Linux and
Linux
AIX
like that.
also. Mm, okay, that's if anything,
Okay, then,
I'll
Manish.
just try to look into it. I'll update you.
Yeah.
That's not a problem. Hmm?
Okay.
So fine, then see you tomorrow, same time. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll
Thank
also
you.
share your share this recording. Please share your email addresses
Yeah, we'll
through
chat. We'll
WhatsApp.
type in chat. Is
Yeah,
that make sense?
you can send it through WhatsApp. That's not a problem.
Okay, fine.
So that I'll be sharing through the Google Drive. I'll be sharing the recording. Okay. See
Okay,
you
thank you.
tomorrow, same time. Bye.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
all. Bye.
Bye bye.